just spilled a little water on my computer. It's okay though. Grand existence. Thank you for joining me here. I'm Nicholas Jensen Denton, and this is JD's Pharmacopoeia. I'm JD. Tonight, in this present moment, I am bringing you forth here today to read some incredibly, what I would consider significant historical information relating to the development of the scientific tradition in the Western world. That is Einstein's autobiographical notes, the philosopher scientist, as he is called. These are the notes written in his own hand, his own mind, that are not ultimately scientific in nature, but they are a mental, historical journey along the path of imagination, intuition, and personal insight that led to his discovery of the world's most profound scientific laws that we have come to know so far today. Soon to change, if you are not aware, soon to change. That's another video. I'm not going to get into it, but that's simulation. Science is proving it. Anyways, we need a precursor. We need a preparatory. We need a primer for what the simulation hypothesis really is about, and we can only do that by understanding the history that led up to it. And that history, a big chunk of it was discovered was discussed in past videos on this channel. And also, if you go to jdsfarmacopoeia.com/blog-post/reading list, you will see my reading list recommendations, essential readings. If you don't understand what I'm telling you right now, you go to my reading list and you see that everything that I'm attempting to tell you is written about by authors, philosophers, scientists, mystics, visionaries, dumbasses alike, everybody, and my list is there. So if you don't understand me, go to the source material of which I'm pulling most of my theory, when my theory is not coming directly out of my own uniqueness. Okay, so there is a large history to this, and I have discussed much of it before. That is Galileo. That is Galileo. That is Newton. That is Maxwell. That is who is that other guy? Copernicus? No, not Copernicus. Aristotle. And it is basically the history and the development of the scientific worldview. If you want a single book recommendation to get caught up to this point-ish, I'd say go read A Beautiful Question by Frank Wilczek. Can never pronounce his last name, but Nobel-winning physicist, and author of A Beautiful Question, proposing supersymmetry, that the universe embodies beautiful ideals. Give me 1 second. I'm going to turn off my AC. Oh gosh, hold on. Give me a few seconds. Hello? Fuck. Hey, are you here? Yes. No, south actually, sorry. 52 Union Street South. It's like it's basically where the Market Street address is, but it's one block over. So I guess you can really go to either one. All right, so I'm waiting on a DoorDash order, unfortunately. So I'm gonna have to run out and get that in a second. But maybe I shouldn't do this live. Oh well. Here's what happens. Here's what happens. The scientific worldview is evolving, it's developing, and the man never really explained himself. Well, actually he did. He didn't do it till way later, and it turns out they didn't teach us this in school. They didn't tell us they never tell us about the process of discovery. The process of discovery is how these people came to awareness of the things that they're talking about. All right, my DoorDash is here. I'll be right back. Whew. Okay. Well, when I fix this video, when I edit it, all this shit in the beginning is coming out. But if you're alive, you're not. Nobody is, but we're going to keep going. Okay. Let me just catch my breath real quick. All right. I had to find the center. It's too much moving around. I was not expecting all that. So now I'm back. I'm back center. Thank you for waiting. And as I've been saying, right back into it, the thing that we've got going on here is an important historical document. Again, an important historical document that should be known by more people. I didn't know it. I'm a student of science and truth and quantum mechanics and Einstein. I've been looking for this my whole life, and it only just came around. Like, why the hell, why the heaven ain't anybody telling us about what this is, about what's going on? It's a little ridiculous if you ask me. So, ladies and gentlemen, seekers of knowledge and travelers. Oh, I fucked it up. All right. Now I am going to edit out everything that happened in the beginning, or maybe I'll skip past it, but I'm going to do a little bit of editing post live session. But let me try it. This is my introduction to the whole thing, which was assisted by Grok and ChatGPT. Got a little bit of both in there, but curated by yours truly. So first, I'd like to say grand existence. Ladies and gentlemen, seekers of knowledge and travelers of the infinite mind, over the next few weeks I'll be reading a truly fascinating piece of history, an exploration of a pivotal moment in scientific thought, a moment when one of history's greatest minds turned inward to reflect on the path that led him to reshape our understanding of reality itself. I welcome you to an extraordinary journey into the thoughts of one of humanity's most enigmatic figures, Albert Einstein. This is no mere recounting of events, no typical life story strung together by dates and deeds. No, what lies ahead is something far richer, a mosaic of ideas, struggles, revelations, and reflections that unveils the very soul of Einstein's uniqueness. Originally written in 1946 for the Library of Living Philosophers, Einstein's autobiographical notes stand as a testament to the man not just as a physicist, but as a philosopher, a seeker of truth, and an explorer of the eternal principles. In the following pages, Einstein invites us into his inner sanctum, where equations dance alongside metaphysical musings, and the rigid lines of the physical world blur into something far more profound. By this time, he was no stranger to fame nor to controversy. His revolutionary ideas and theories of special and general relativity had not only upended the Newtonian worldview, but had also paved the way for modern cosmology and quantum mechanics. Yet as he reflected on his life for the Library of Living Philosophers, Einstein found himself grappling with profound questions still unresolved, even within his own mind. This was a moment of tension in Einstein's intellectual journey. Quantum mechanics, with its probabilistic nature, had reached maturity, and Einstein famously resisted its implications, asserting, "God does not play dice with the universe." His own attempts to formulate a unified field theory, a grand synthesis that would harmonize all the forces of nature, remained unfinished. But why, you ask, should you, the average whatever you are, Joe, or anyone beyond the realm of physics, delve into these notes? Because within them lies not merely a blueprint for scientific innovation, but a guide to the fearless pursuit of knowledge and a hidden key to unlocking the ultimate knowledge that lies within each one of us. Einstein's words resonate with the spirit of alchemy, the transmutation of ignorance into knowledge, intuition into law, the unknown into discovery. Here you will encounter the evolution of his ideology written by his own hand, the philosophical scaffolding upon which he built the theories that would forever alter humanity's view of the universe. You will witness his reverence for the mysteries of existence and his defiance against the constraints of conventional thinking. Einstein bears his soul as a mathematician and a visionary mystic, a man who saw beyond the veil of the tangible material realm and dared to map the universal laws. And I was really propping him up here. This is a ChatGPT grok-infused intro. I feel like anybody that's listening to this can probably tell that, but there are a few good pieces in here that I like, so I'm reading the whole thing. We may not understand some of the physics-heavy aspects of these notes, nor the technical constructions, but they are strung together by a deeply and universal curiosity about the nature of reality that every person alive shares in commonality. So have some courage and fearlessness. Open your mind and let us enter this territory of philosophical science. For the words you are about to hear are more than an autobiography. They are an invocation of the great spirits which inspired Einstein to author the laws and principalities which have empowered our species to the height of scientific knowledge and the very precipice of the limits of our epistemology. Prepare to engage not just your intellect, but your imagination. For Einstein's journey is as much about the heart as it is about the mind. So a little bit more ado. I think it's really important because what we're going to find is that Einstein, he was self-reflecting. And if you know anything about self-reflecting and inward thought and the default mode network, it's when your brain processes as much data as the architecture of the brain allows it to coherently process. Your brain works to its highest capacity when you shut yourself off from external senses and you reflect, you self-reflect. That's something else that they should have taught us in school, but they never did. And what I have found in my personal pursuit and understanding is that if you go back through the history of the scientific worldview, you'll find that many, now not all, but many of our most profound discoveries come from people who were self-reflecting. They were looking inward. They were perhaps on a journey of consciousness. And that's often, that intuitive aspect of the thing is often, of the discovery process, is quite overshadowed by the discovery itself, both by the discoverers and by those recounting the discovery. Not JD, though. I'm fully aware. If you look back, man, and you look at a lot of these guys, like, I like the DNA story alone is a very powerful one, because James Watson he had the intuition of base pairing when he was in a state of self-reflection. He describes in his autobiography, in his diary, DNA, the double helix, he describes riding a bus in a state of meditation, zoned out, not thinking about the world, not looking at the world, but meditating upon an idea. And when he's doing this, he has a eureka moment where just it comes to him, and he quote unquote discovers the idea of base pairing, of nucleotide base pairing between adenine, guanine, cytosine, and whatever the T is, tyrosine. Likewise, Francis Crick, he saw the double helix on LSD. He saw the double helix on LSD. And there are dozens, many dozens of scientists who had discoveries on LSD that directly led to their eureka moments. So I'm not going to beat the LSD horse to death, but there's other people like Srinivasa Ramanujan. And this man was a mathematical genius. And he said that all his ideas about number theory and an infinite series and mathematical analysis, they all came from a voice inside his head who identified as the Hindu goddess Namagiri Thayer, claiming that she revealed the formulas to him in his dreams, in his mental voice, his inner voice. Other great examples include, I believe his full name is Friedrich Kuechly, the discovery of the heterocyclic six-membered carbon ring benzene, which is a foundational structure in natural products and organic chemistry, who revolutionized natural products by by characterizing the benzene structure. And how did he discover it? There are a few different reports. Some say that he was looking deeply into the eyes of a fire beneath his fireplace, and inside the fire he saw a spinning Ouroboros, which gave him the idea of alternating pi bonds, resonant electrons inside the benzene ring. Others, so that was like considered a daydream. Others say that it was in an actual dream. Here's a quote from him himself in one of his recountings. I was sitting, writing at my textbook, but the work did not progress. My thoughts were elsewhere. I turned my chair to the fire and dozed. Again, the atoms were gamboling before my eyes. This time, the smaller groups kept modestly in the background. My mental eye, rendered more acute by repeated visions of this kind, could now distinguish larger structures of manifold conformations, long rows, sometimes more closely fitted together, all twining and twisting in a snake-like motion. But look, what was that? One of the snakes had seized hold of its own tail, and the form whirled mockingly before my eyes. As if by a flash of lightning, I awoke, and this time also I spent the rest of the night working out the consequences of this hypothesis. That was Friedrich Kückeli in his own words. Now you can see where the debate comes in, whether it was a daydream, whether it was an actual dream, whether the fire gave him the knowledge. However, this revolutionized chemistry. It laid the groundwork for understanding aromaticity, which is where all the cool compounds are. They're aromatic. They fly like the eagle. Crucial in theoretical chemistry, medicine, natural product development, etc., etc. Point being that what we have in scientific discovery is a means of the consciousness information system handing out, like, what do you call it? I guess we just call it seed knowledge. Like, it plants a seed in the consciousness of the scientist, who then, after intense self-analysis, absorption, hyperfixation on this seed, it fructifies in the mind, and then it brings forth the fruits of that knowledge, of that seed, of that organism, of that idea, and we get thus, well, in Einstein's case, we got the general and special theory of relativity, not in that order, but you see, this happens all over. I could spend a lot of time going into it, but I'm not gonna, because I really just want to read the books. I know people out there, like, I tried to find it on YouTube. I go to YouTube for all my audiobooks and I couldn't find it, and so I have it now. I have it here. So what I'm going to do for you today is I'm going to read the general introduction. I'm calling this part 0. It's about like 50 to 45 pages for all of his autobiographical notes, and they were collected inside this other text called Albert Einstein, Philosopher, Scientist, edited by Paul Arthur Schlipp, which contains his notes, of course, and then it also contains a series of other essays, letters, and thoughts from other scientists and their discussions back and forth about his ideas, from the likes of Niels Bohr, Louis de Broglie, all the famous Max what's his last name? Max Planck, Max Born, Wolfgang Pauli, all these dudes. So, but I'm not going to read any of those. I'm just going to read Einstein's autobiography. And again, I'm starting with the general introduction and the preface. The preface, introduction. Yeah, that's it. So here we go. Enough hoopla. Here's the general introduction to the Library of Living Philosophers. The Library of Living Philosophers. According to the late F.C.S. Schiller, what a name. There also may be some commentary by yours truly. All right, now we're going. The greatest obstacle to fruitful discussion in philosophy is the curious etiquette which apparently taboos the asking of questions about a philosopher's meaning while he is alive. The interminable controversies which fill the histories of philosophy, he goes on to say, could have been ended at once by asking the living philosophers a few searching questions. I'm going to make it so you guys can see the book as well. I'm going to put me over here and the book. That's not going to work, is it? Oh, sorry, folks. Can't have everything. Looks like you're just going to get... I'll go small. Okay, I'll go small. How about this? I'll put that here. This here. I guess it doesn't work like that. All right, I'm sorry. I'm going. Oh, no wonder it doesn't work like that. If I have the discipline, this will all be edited together succinctly, but I have camera problems, and I've got mental problems, and I've got software problems, so shit takes a little while to get set up. Now it's just... Alright, whatever. You're just going to get me. You're not going to get to read the book. This is an audio-visual learning experience. The interminable controversies which fill the histories of philosophy, he goes on to say, could have been ended at once by asking the living philosophers a few searching questions. The confident optimism of his last remark undoubtedly goes too far. Living thinkers have often been asked a few searching questions, but their answers have not stopped interminable controversies about their real meanings. It is nonetheless true that there would be far greater clarity of understanding than is now often the case if more such searching questions had been directed to great thinkers while they were still alive. This, at any rate, is the basic thought behind the present undertaking. The volumes of the Library of Living Philosophers can in no sense take the place of the major writings of great and original thinkers. Students who would know the philosophies of such men as John Dewey, George Santayana, Alfred North Whitehead, Benedetto Croce, G.E. Moore, Bertrand Russell, Ernst Cassirer, Karl Jaspers, et al. Will still need to read the writings of these men. There is no substitute for first-hand contact with the original thought of the philosopher himself. Least of all does this library pretend to be such a substitute. The library, in fact, will spare neither effort nor expense in offering to the student the best possible guide to the published writings of a given thinker. We shall attempt to meet this aim by providing at the end of each volume in our series a complete bibliography of the published work of the philosopher in question. Nor should one overlook the fact that the essays in each volume cannot be finally led to this same goal. The interpretive and critical discussions of the various phases of a great thinker's work, and most of all, the reply of the thinker himself, are bound to lead the reader to the works of the philosopher himself. I just had to drink a sip of water. At the same time, there is no denying the fact that different experts find different ideas in the writings of the same philosopher. This is as true of the appreciative interpreter and grateful disciple as it is of the critical opponent. Nor can it be not denied that such differences of reading and of interpretation on the part of other experts often leave the neophyte aghast before a whole maze of widely varying and even opposing interpretations. Who is right and whose interpretation shall he accept? When the doctors disagree among themselves, what is the poor student to do? If finally, in desperation, he decides that all of the interpreters are probably wrong and that the only thing for him to do is go back to the original writings of the philosopher himself and then to make his own decision uninfluenced, as if this were possible, by the interpretation of anyone else, the result is not that he has actually come to the meaning of the original philosopher himself, but rather that he has set up one more interpretation which may differ to a greater or lesser degree from the interpretations already existing. It is clear that in this direction lies chaos, just the kind of chaos which Schiller has so graphically and inimitably described. It is curious that until now, no way of escaping this difficulty has been seriously considered. It has not occurred to students of philosophy that one effective way of meeting the problem, at least partially, is to put these various interpretations and critiques before the philosopher while he is still alive, and to ask him to act at one and the same time as both defendant and judge. If the world's greatest philosophers can be induced into cooperate, there's like a Norwegian letter right there or something. Can be induced to cooperate in an enterprise whereby their own work can, at least to some extent, be saved from becoming merely desiccated lecture fodder, which on the one hand provides innocuous sustenance for ruminant professors, and on the other hand gives an opportunity to such ruminants and their understudies to speculate safely, endlessly, and fruitlessly about what a philosopher must have meant. Quote Schiller, they will have taken a long step toward making their intentions clearly comprehensible. With this in mind, the Library of Living Philosophers expects to publish at more or less regular intervals a volume on each of the greater among the world's living philosophers. In each case, it will be the purpose of the editor of the library to bring together the volume, the interpretations, and criticisms of a wide range of that particular thinker's scholarly contemporaries, each of whom will be given a free hand to discuss the specific phase of the thinker's work which has been assigned to him. All contributed essays will finally be submitted to the philosopher with whose work and thought they are concerned for his careful perusal and reply. And, although it would be expecting too much to imagine that the philosopher's reply will be able to stop all differences of interpretation and of critique, this should at least serve the purpose of stopping certain of the grosser and more general kinds of misinterpretations. If no further gain than this were to come from the present and projected volumes of this library, it would seem to be fully justified in carrying out this principal purpose of the library. The editor announces that, insofar as humanly possible, each volume work will conform to the following pattern. First, a series of expository and critical articles written by the leading exponents and opponents of the philosopher's thought. Second, the reply to the critics and commentators of the philosopher himself. Third, an intellectual autobiography of the thinker whenever this can be secured, in any case an authoritative and authorized biography. And fourth, a bibliography of the writings of the professor to provide a ready instrument to give access to his writings and thought. The editor has deemed it desirable to secure the services of an advisory board of philosophers to aid him in the selection of the subjects of future volumes. The names of the 6 prominent American philosophers who have consented to serve appear below. To each of them, the editor expresses his deep felt thanks. Looks like I didn't actually need to read this for the understanding of the book, but here we are. Future volumes in this series. What is going on? My camera. Future volumes in this series will appear in as rapid succession as is feasible in view of the scholarly nature of this library. The next 3 volumes in this series should be those on Benedetto Croce, Sir Sarvepalli, Radhakrishnan, and Karl Jaspers. The editor is very happy indeed to be able to make grateful acknowledgement for the financial assistance this volume has received. The editorial work on the Einstein volume has been largely made possible by a grant received from the humanities. I actually don't care about grants or money. Good for you. However, neither the Rockefeller Foundation nor the ACLS are in any sense of the authors, owners, publishers, or proprietors of this library, and they are therefore not to be understood as approving by virtue of their grants or any statements made in this volume. Volumes 1 to 4 have unfortunately been out of print for some time, not due to lack of demand for these volumes. There is in fact a steady demand for each of them, but simply because the Library of Living Philosophers Incorporated has lacked the necessary funds to permit reprintings or new editions. It is now hoped that it will be possible to print a second edition of at least the volume on the philosophy of John Dewey within approximately 4 or 5 months of the date of publication of the present volume. We had strongly hoped to be able to do this in time for Professor Dewey's 90th birthday on October 20th, 1949. Failing in this effort, we shall do our best to accomplish this, and as soon as possible. It is perhaps hardly necessary to add that the library would gladly welcome gifts and donations which would enable us to reprint the other 3 volumes. Since November 6, 1947, moreover, any gifts or donations made to the Library of Living Philosophers Incorporated are deductible by the donors and arriving in their taxable net income in conformity with the Internal Revenue Code of the Treasury Department of the United States of America. Well, that was actually very boring. So, who's on the advisory board? Nobody that we would know. Great. Table of contents, frontispiece, facing page, general introduction. Just read that. We've got the editor's preface. I suppose I'll read that. Preface. 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 The contents of this volume speak eloquently enough for the inclusion of Albert Einstein, philosopher-scientist, in this series without any superfluous words from the editor. I'm glad we're past all the superfluity. Almost all of the matters which need to be mentioned here are of the nature of personal privilege. There is, first of all, the matter of gratitude for help and cooperation. Foremost here stands Professor Einstein himself. Without his consent and willingness to cooperate, this book could never have appeared. But how to express the editor's thanks and appreciation to him in the coldness of mere words? This is something I know not how to do. Perhaps he will understand if I state simply that my obligation and gratitude to him are beyond the possibility of verbal expression. Among the 25 other contributors to this volume, there are no less than 6 Nobel Prize winners in science, and essays have come from as many as 11 countries: Australia, Belgium, Canada, Denmark, England, France, Germany, Ireland, Scotland, Switzerland, and the USA. An essay for this volume had also been promised by a leading scientist of the USSR, although it has not actually yet reached the editor. The editor is as deeply and sincerely obligated to these important and busy scholars the world around as he is to Professor Einstein. My back. It proved impossible to bring out this volume at the time originally planned. It had been hoped to lay it on Professor Einstein's birthday table March 14th last year. That's Pi Day, also the day Einstein died. I mean, also the day Stephen Hawking died. No one regrets this delay in publication more than the editor. Other regrets are no less poignant. It was a tragedy of no mean importance that Max Planck was already too seriously ill at the time of the conception of this volume for him to be able to contribute an essay, nor has the editor recovered from the sadness caused by Professor Herman Weil's inability to carry out his original promise to write for this book. 3 other scholars from as many countries finally failed to redeem their pledges given to the editor. In the case of one of these, it is at least conceivable that the reason for the failure of this essay to reach us may not have lain with himself. In any case, it is regrettable that the library of living philosophers is thus deprived from giving those essays to its interested readers. We can merely assure these readers that no stone was left unturned to secure the essays. What if I just turned off my camera and let you guys read it? See, I've got a problem over here. I mean, it doesn't need to be addressed right now. Sorry. All right, let's get the camera back up. Hello. All these regrets are compensated for, however, by our being able to present here Professor Einstein's one and only intellectual autobiography. Everyone who knows Professor Einstein personally is all too well aware of his extreme shyness and his honest and forthright humility. I do not believe that there would have been 1 chance in 10,000 that the world would ever have secured an autobiography from the hand of Professor Einstein if the unique nature of the library of living philosophers had not fully convinced him of the worthwhileness and significance of such an obituary as he calls his autobiography. Einstein's autobiographical notes in themselves assure, therefore, the unique importance of this volume. In a kindred category stands Professor Niels Bohr's discussion with Einstein, an essay not merely delightfully written, but of the utmost and lasting importance in its content. These recollections of conversations with Einstein on the epistemological aspects of physical science would never have come into being were it not for the peculiar nature of this series. What do they call that? It's like this author is glazing his own volume, which is cool, bro. Yeah, be there for yourself. But let's get to the point. Glazing, as the kids are calling it. One could go in this fashion. How can one adequately praise the care, precision, directness, and beauty of Professor Einstein's, quote, reply, or remarks, as he calls them, to his commentators and critics? There are, however, still other persons whose kindness or aid have helped to enhance the value or increase the beauty and correctness of this work. Professor Peter G. Bergman of the Physics Department of Syracuse University spared neither time nor effort in helping to put Professor von Lau's paper into the same adequate and beautiful form in English as the author himself had used in his original German manuscript. Professor Arnold J. F. Siegert of the Physics Department of Northwestern University carefully checked and corrected especially the technically scientific aspects of my own translation of both Einstein essays. Mr. Forrest W. Williams of Northwestern University very kindly and ably translated the de Broglie and Baclard essays. Mere words of gratitude are also quite inadequate to express the editor's appreciation of the wonderfully careful and exacting work accomplished by the bibliographer of Professor Einstein's published works. Long before the present volume got underway, Miss Margaret C. Shields, at that time librarian of the Mathematics Library of Princeton University, had been at work gathering the data which have now gone into the bibliography. which constitutes the important part 4 of the present volume. Her labors have been endless and her efforts almost excruciatingly painstaking. The result speaks for itself. Her exhaustive bibliography of the published work of Einstein will prove to be of inestimable value to scientists and scholars for centuries to come. Shout out to Margaret. Miss Margaret, where you at? The abiding knowledge of this fact will be a source of deeper satisfaction to Miss Shields than any words of thanks the editor could offer. Messrs. Surrendar Surrey and Kenneth G. Halvorson save the editor the arduous and laborious task of providing this volume with its accurate and useful index. A host of other individuals contributed their assistance during various parts of the labor of reading proof and seeing the volume through the press. To all of these, the editor says a most sincere and heartfelt thank you. The order in which the essays appear in Part 2 was determined in general by the order in which Professor Einstein chose to discuss the essays in his replying remarks. Again, I probably won't read those because this whole thing is 800 pages and I just want to get through. Well, it's really only, I don't know, it depends on what language the other half of it's written in, but it's between 400 and 800 pages, so we'll see what happens when I get through the first 45. Anyways, I digress. The only exceptions to this rule are those essays to which Dr. Einstein did not reply or which came in after his remarks had been completed. In reading and editing the contents of this volume, 2 possible subtitles have come to the editor's mind again and again, namely, The Scientific Battle of the 20th Century and 2, The Future of Physics. Viewed from either point of view, this book has been exciting reading even to its editor. He may be permitted to express the hope, therefore, that the experience of other readers will be similar. Acknowledgements. Grateful acknowledgement is hereby made to the authors, editors, and publishers of all of Professor Einstein's works, as well as any other books, quotations from which appear in this volume. We are particularly grateful to them for the fact that they have not required us to enumerate these volumes here by author, title, and publisher. We also wish to grow. We also wish to grow. I don't know where I got that. May have been a Freudian slip, because we do wish to grow. We also wish to express our appreciation to the editors and publishers of numerous scientific, mathematical, and philosophical journals quoted in these pages for the privilege of utilizing such source materials therein found relevant to the discussion of Professor Einstein's specific and philosophical views. So after that, there is a prefatory note to the 3rd edition, and then begins the autobiographical notes. And because this prefatory note is literally 1 page and a fourth, I'll read it. I wasn't going to read it at first. I'm going to read it. Prefatory note to the 3rd edition. I guess this is the 3rd edition. It has been said that no man is irreplaceable. Like most generalizations, this one is not entirely correct. The passing of Albert Einstein in Princeton, New Jersey, on April 18, 1955, certainly was an irreplaceable loss to science, to scholarship, to humanitarianism, to the cause of peace, and to the conscience of mankind. For if the conscience of humanity could ever be said to have been represented by one single living human being, that human being was the great and truly immortal Einstein. To the editor of this library, in all quotes, Einstein's passing was also a great personal loss. My numerous visits and personal conversations with him constitute an indescribable legacy and indestructible memory of the greatest human being it has ever been my privilege to know personally. Since the present third edition of our Einstein volume is the first one to be released since Einstein's even yet untimely passing, the editor felt deeply obliged to say at least that much. But all of us are pleased to know that this volume is, at long last, available again. After all, this volume contains the only thing even so much as approximating an autobiography that the great Einstein ever wrote, and this appears both in the great scientist's original German and in English translation, side by side and page by page for all 95 pages. So divide that by 2. It's really like 1 page English, 1 page German, 1 page English, so about 45 pages. This by itself is an imperishable document, which is even more significant precisely because it contains much more of Einstein's scientific thought development than it does mere matters of personal recollection. His reply to criticisms is equally important and of permanent significance. This third edition has been corrected for errors, and 2 brought more nearly up to date in the bibliography. We know that it will receive the same enthusiastic reception which greeted the first 2 editions of this, in a real sense, timeless volume. The editor wishes to express his appreciation to the new publishers of the library, all caps, the Hegler Foundation, and the Open Court Publishing Company for undertaking to keep all the volumes of the library permanently in print, to the advisory board of the library for their help in planning future volumes. The present membership of the board is listed below, and to the National Endowment of the Humanities, Washington, D.C., for generous grants for the years 1967 and 1970. Yeah, thank your financial people. So that is the preface. That is JD's introduction. That is the general introduction and the author's note. And now, in the next video, we will begin Albert Einstein's autobiographical notes, and we will not stop until they're over. So, if you tuned in here, I don't know. I've not been watching the thing, but that's all we got for now. And that is it. Have a grand existence. Go to jdspharmacopoeia.com for medicinal, therapeutic, and shamanic plant medicines. And also check me out at jdspharmacopoeia.com/apothecary. Just go to jdspharmacopoeia.com and you will find something useful. Thank you very much. Peace to you. Peace to the family.